As an African American woman, it is very important for me, crucial, it's a lifeline, it's a bloodline for me to be able to wear my hair natural.
It's so empowering. It gives me the permission to be my authentic self.
As an African American, it is important to me because it is my God given right to wear my hair as it grows out of my head.
Is a level of personal self-expression and the fact that we have to even have the conversation about being able to wear natural hair is a travesty in itself.
I've always been faced with questions about my hair. Even once I got older and started into employment,
What does it look like? Is it professional enough? Is it good enough?
And I was told by someone earlier in my career that I would never be taken seriously in my professional world by having starting my dreadlocks. So I've been wearing dreadlocks now for about 17 years.
And so I would put chemicals in it and I would straighten it every single day, damaging my hair.
I'm 28 years old and I've had to do so much healing from years of damage of going to school and being made fun of, or people wanting to touch my hair, and just letting me know that I was different because I had different hair.
But my hair is important to me. It's a part of who I am. And it will be my choice when I choose to change my hairstyle or do something different.
Black women surrounded me and encouraged me to wear my hair naturally. And to this day, as you can see, I still wear my hair very naturally.
well, I'm truly excited that the Crown Act has passed in Michigan.
That we even have to legislate people being able to be authentically themselves is a problem in itself.
I am saddened that people that look like me need a policy to make sure that our kids can graduate.
But aside from that, I'm glad that Michigan has jumped on board with the Crown Act.
With this passing in Michigan, I think like the word that comes to mind is the beginning of freedom.
Black and brown little girls won't have to question how they wear their hair to an interview. They won't have to question if their braids are too much.
It's a part of me. It's a part of my self-expression.
And I love everything that my curls bring. I think that they rock with me and my personality.
I love just the versatility, the history of my hair, the resilience of my hair. I love black hair and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Hair tells a story, and as you've seen through that video, it's a part of personal identity. Black hair has had its own unique journey here in the United States, being used as both a tool of oppression and empowerment. Now, it's important to remember in ancient African societies, hair was a cultural and spiritual symbol. But during America's early days of slavery, enslaved Africans were forced to shave their heads, stripping that cultural identity. But later, it was hair that also saved many slaves, with hairstyles like cornrows being used as a way of secret communication, styling different patterns to set meetups or even map escape routes. But while slavery was abolished in 1865, hair, along with other racial identifiers, was not protected from discrimination. It's a weapon the NAACP says works to preserve white spaces and can still be at play today. Policies that prohibit natural hairstyles like afros, braids, bantu knots, and locks have often been used to justify the removal of Black children from classrooms and Black adults from employment. Take 2019, for example, when a news anchor in Mississippi lost her job because she decided not to straighten her hair, or a year earlier, when an Alabama woman had her job offer revoked because her hairstyle violated company policy. Right here in Michigan, a biracial 7-year-old's hair was cut by a student, then a teacher, in 2021, sparking a $1 million lawsuit alleging racial discrimination. Now, the fight to end hair discrimination can be traced back to America's earliest days, but it took a jump forward in 2019 with something called the Crown Act, Create a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Originating in California, at least 23 states have signed legislation banning hair discrimination, and last summer, Michigan was added to the list. While states have written in policies, there's currently no federal law banning hair discrimination, And with loopholes in these systems and daily microaggressions, advocates say this fight is far from finished. Today, Mutually Inclusive's Jennifer Moss sits down with women in our own community to talk about the Crown Act, its importance, and hopes for the future.
Hello, everyone. We, of course, are talking about the Crown Act today, creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. I am so happy to have two wonderful women here joining us on set today. Lois Owens, recently retired, longtime professor of social work at GVSU, and Sandra Gaddy, CEO of the Women's Resource Center here in Grand Rapids. We welcome you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So both of you in particular fields, and you have particular personal experience as well, have dealt with issues of hair, the beautiful crown on your heads. We're talking today again about that Crown Act, signed into law in Michigan by Governor Gretchen Whitmer back in June. It in 24 states, I believe, now still kind of active on the federal level, but it has not been formally passed. They're still looking at that. We've got a lot of ground to tackle, but we're going to start with you telling us your thoughts about the Crown Act. Lois, you've got extensive personal and professional experience. In your work as a social worker, you have traveled extensively throughout Africa, to Ghana in particular, taking students there and the like. Your thoughts about the Crown Act, being in place, and perhaps about hair discrimination being, as what some people say, rooted in systemic racism.
Yes, well, it is an absolute necessary law, and it must be passed throughout this entire country, as far as I'm concerned. The discrimination, I think, that women of color, African American women in particular, have experienced, for me, begins as a kid. Being a one black family in an all-white town with 5 girls, we wore our hair in braids every day. All the other kids, if they had braids, they were long, or they had long hair or curly hair. And I can remember one day when one of my braids came loose, and I was, I think, in the 3rd grade, and I couldn't figure out how to rebraid it. And so therefore, I was sort of laughed at, teased for the rest of the day. Mm-hmm. And after that, I learned to braid very quickly, by the way. And that is the beginning experience of knowing that you're different, and that because you're different, there's something wrong with it. And so there was something wrong with my hair because it didn't fall down. And white hair falls down. Mm-hmm. We used to stick our head out of the car window when Dad was driving, so our hair would blow in the wind. Okay, so
that's the idea of trying to fit in.
Yeah,
started at an early age.
You don't do that, yeah. And I think that's something that African American women have felt ever since we arrived on this continent, is that we don't fit in. Our hair is not their hair. We talk about babies born with good hair. I'm sure we've both heard that. Mm-hmm. It's part of that whole issue that permeates the life of black people in general, just because we have black skin, but even our hair is not enough. We're never good enough because we're not white. My hair is black and curly, you know, and I hope it stays that. Well, it's silver now, but it was black and curly. Okay, so we are born with hair that's endemic to the continent that we came from. It is useful. It is helpful. It takes care of the moisture, the temperatures, everything else in the climates of that particular continent. So our hair was born into the continent it was supposed to be born into.
And the reaction in workplaces and for students, and we've had so many recent news reports of various activities, such as one student being just recently suspended in Texas, where they just passed the act, the Crown Act, and being suspended twice because he had dreadlocks that he pulled up. And you know, there's an argument there. I'm not going to get into particulars about the case, but it continues to be prevalent in society today, where people are looked at, or the workplace or school looks at them differently because of the way they decide to wear their hair.
Yes, it still continues even today. And I think that if one volunteers in any of the grade schools around this community, you will find that there are little black girls who are still very concerned about their hair. Even in the 3rd and 2nd grade, they're concerned that someone's going to say something about their hair. And it might be someone who looks just like them, which is even worse.
And Sandra, you head up a major center for women, the Women's Resource Center, of course. You help women get back into the workforce after difficult life situations in many cases. Statistics show that Black and brown people, especially Black women, regularly face discrimination in schools and the workplace based on the texture and style of the hair. You also held a panel discussion as part of Black Women Connect about I Am Not My Hair. What are your thoughts about the Crown Act and how it relates to women in the workplace and beyond?
Well, I echo Lois's comment that it's necessary. It's necessary not only for the state, but it's necessary for the country. And I completely agree that we need to ensure that all 50 states, all states are covered to protect women of color, and particularly Black women, African American women. And I mean, for the women that we serve coming out of Women's Resource Center, we have not had a woman that said, I've been discriminated for a job necessarily. But we do have women who are afraid to go into work and afraid that their hair is not going to be accepted, whether it's locks or an afro like mine, or if it's twist. And as an advocacy-based organization, we are clear that if you run into those situations, to come back to us and we will advocate for them. Personally, as a mother of 2 girls and my son, my youngest daughter went to a Christian school. And I remember in middle school when she came home and said she wanted to straighten her hair. And it devastated me because she wanted to fit in. And she was only one of 2 African American students, girls at the school, and it was because the other girls would touch her hair and ask her about her hair, and she just got tired. She loved her hair, but she just became tired and said, just straighten it. I just want to get past this and just, you know, deal with it. And she had her hair straight from middle school, partial middle school, and through high school. And what I loved about the panel discussion for Black Women Connect, that I Am Not My Hair, we really focus on encouraging women to stop saying who has good hair, because we all have good hair.
Absolutely.
There's not one. We didn't make that up.
What does that even mean?
What does that even mean? And that was not Black people's narratives. That was given to us. And so we have to be the ones that say, we're no longer going to say that. And my daughter, who was in college at the time, and she had some of her teammates, she played ball there and at her college, and she walked out so free from that. And she said, I'm going to wear my own hair. And so when you perm your hair for so long, like I did as well, that is a process. You got to get the chemicals out of your hair, and it is truly a process. And
it's a lengthy process, and there's all kinds of things going on in between as you grow it out.
Absolutely. And I remember the first time that I went natural, and it was my daughter who encouraged me to go natural, and I was at a former employer. I sat in my car for over an hour. I got to work early. I sat in the car for over an hour. I would wear my hair natural on vacations, but the thought of going into work and the thought of judgment and the thought of having to defend myself
Or explain,
it was a lot to handle, even as an executive leader. And so I did get the courage after someone knocked on my window and said, why are you in the car? And I went in. But, and so I've been wearing my hair natural ever since. But it's important that employers recognize this is our crown and we should be free to wear it. We need to come to work with our whole selves. And as coming to work in our whole selves, they're going to get our best selves.